Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about adjectives. Now, an adjective is a part of speech that describes or modifies a noun or pronoun. When I say modify or describe, I mean provide more information about it, okay? It being the noun or the pronoun, right? So, there are actually many types of adjectives. Right? And many of these you may probably be surprised to know that this is called, this is that type of adjective. I did not know that. Right. We know that they describe generally, right? But they provide different pieces of information about nouns, and each piece of information is going to represent a different type of adjective, and we're going to see them today. Another thing to note about adjectives is that they precede the noun that they describe generally, which means that they go before. So the adjective is going to be placed before the noun that it modifies generally. There are exceptions, but this is the case most of the time. So let's get into the different types of adjectives. And the first one we're going to look at is called a possessive adjective. These indicate ownership, naturally, as they are possessive, right? So the possessive adjectives are going to be my, your, his, her, its, our, their. As you will see, these all represent the grammatical subjects that exist in English, right? So we have the first person singular, the second person singular, the third person singular, the first person plural, and the third person plural. So for example, my car is outside. My indicates that the car belongs to me. She knows your mother. Your indicates that the mother belongs to you. So this will be possessive adjectives, right? Now, in the case of his, that can also function as a possessive pronoun. But what is the difference? So a pronoun replaces a noun, okay? But a possessive adjective indicates ownership and it is placed before the noun. So that in that case, we will know that there is a big difference. Yes, they both indicate ownership, but with a possessive adjective, that has to go before the noun. Whereas a possessive pronoun replaces the noun phrase or the noun. For example, if I say this is John's car would be the phrase that I am referring to. I can replace that. I can say this is his. So his replaces John's car. So a possessive pronoun will stand on its own because, like I said, it replaces nouns, right? But if I wanted to use his as a possessive adjective in that sentence, I would have to say this is his car. The his would have to be placed before the noun, which is car. This is his car. His is a possessive adjective. This is his. His is functioning as a possessive pronoun. So you see the difference, right? So all you have to do is to remember that the possessive adjective must go before the noun, and the possessive pronoun will replace the noun or noun phrase. Okay? 2. Demonstrative adjectives. This, that, these, those. So these are used to identify the person or thing that is being referred to. They indicate the proximity of the noun to the speaker or listener, right? So if I say this chair, that indicates that it is closer to me. If I say that chair, that indicates that it is further away, right? To the speaker or the listener, because the speaker could be close to me as well. But this indicates that it is closer. That indicates that it is further away. Now, these would just be the plural form of this, right? And those would be the plural form of that. Same thing. These would indicate that whatever it is that we are talking about, they are closer to us. And those would indicate that whatever we are talking about, that they are, whatever items that are being referred to, they're further away. Okay? So, those shirts are mine. Those would indicate that the shirts are further away, but it is used to point them out, to identify them. Those shirts are mine. This laptop is not working. So this means that it's closer to us, right? Now, like the category above, demonstrative adjectives are also confused with demonstrative pronouns because they are the same. But the difference now, once again, is that those, this, that, these, and these will replace nouns, right? So it's the same thing as the example above. When it comes to demonstrative adjectives, these must precede the noun. But with demonstrative pronouns, they replace nouns. So for example, if I say, the shirts are red, and I want to replace the shirts with a with a demonstrative pronoun, then first of all, I have to look at the number, and then I have to look at the position. So is it further away or is it closer, right? Are they further away or are they closer? And that will determine whether I use these or those. So the shirts are red. So if they're closer, I would say these are red. So the shirts, so these replace the shirts. You see what I mean? So that's if they're closer. But if they're further away, I would say those are red. Because remember, pronouns replace nouns, right? So that would be the difference there. And then in the case of demonstrative adjectives, we need to be aware of number, whether we want a singular or a plural adjective, right? And we have to bear in mind the proximity or distance, because remember, this indicates that it's closer, that indicates that it's further away, okay? So demonstrative adjectives. 3, numeral adjectives. So there are 3 types of numeral adjectives. We have definite, indefinite, and distributive. So these will be used with countable nouns. Pay attention to that. And countable means that they can be counted using numbers, right? So when it comes to definite numeral adjectives, these are used to indicate the number or order of a noun. And I have exact, yes. Susan bought 4 eggs from the supermarket. How many eggs? 4. To be specific, 4. And the first time is always memorable. First would be ordinal, right? So anytime you have an ordinal being used along with the card, yes. When a number is used, when the exact amount is used before a noun, that would be an example of a definite numeral adjective. So I could say 5, 7, 99, 47, whatever, right? And the exact ordinal is given. So I could say 11th, 10th, 5th, 20th, doesn't matter. These would be examples of definite numeral adjectives. So they give the specific number or order of a noun. Okay? Indefinite numeral adjectives. So these are used to indicate the number of a noun. Yes. These are also used to indicate the number of a noun. But the difference is that the number will be imprecise, or the amount will be imprecise. It will not be exact. For example, some people believe in Christianity. Some, what does that mean? Some does not give us the exact amount. It gives us an idea, right? This is why it's called indefinite. Many countries are developed. Once again, many means that many gives us an idea of the number, but it does not tell us the exact number, right? So the indefinite. So the only difference between these two is that this is exact, and this would not be exact. It is imprecise, right? Or vague. Distributive. The individuals or things in a group are counted separately. So we have a group, but the members of that group will be counted separately or individually. This is what we call distributive, okay? So every house needs a garage. Every house. And you would realize that it is singular when it comes to distributive adjectives. Distributive numeral adjectives. It will be singular. Yes, it refers to a group, but every member of the group will be counted separately, okay? So every house needs a garage. This is talking about houses in general, okay? Each day is a blessing. You know that there are 7 days in the week, so this is talking about all the days, but each day. We are counting the days as individuals, or counting the days separately, right? Now, these are numeral adjectives, and as you see, there are 3 types. So, now we are going to continue. So we continue our analysis of the different types of adjectives, and we move on to number 4. Quantitative adjectives, otherwise known as adjectives of quantity, okay? These refer to an estimated quantity of a noun. These will be used with uncountable nouns. So right then and there you would know that this is very similar to a concept that we studied previously, okay? Examples include some, enough, much, little. Remember, they are used with uncountable nouns, nouns that we cannot count using numbers, okay? For example, we need some money. Money is classified as an uncountable noun, so we use some. There isn't much help. Help will be classified as uncountable, right? So we use much. Now, in the previous example, you would have seen the use of some. Then we did indefinite. When we did indefinite numeral adjectives. So what is the difference? The difference is that quantitative adjectives would be used with uncountable nouns. That's the difference. Because indefinite numeral adjectives are numeral adjectives, and those are used with countable nouns. So even though indefinite numeral adjectives are going to be imprecise, okay, they are used with countable nouns. So this is why we can use many, few, etc. Right? But here we can only use adjectives that indicate an amount that cannot be counted. Well, no, we can only use adjectives that can be used with uncountable nouns. That's what I meant to say. Because quantitative adjectives deal with uncountable nouns. So that's the difference between numeral and quantitative adjectives, right? Quantitative adjectives will deal with uncountable nouns, whereas numeral adjectives will deal with countable nouns, okay? 5. Comparative and superlative adjectives. I would have used these together because they are both used for comparisons, okay? Comparative adjectives are used to indicate that a noun or pronoun has more or less of a quality than another noun or pronoun. Examples include better, worse, more handsome, safer, less thirsty, etc. Now, when it comes to this, if a word has one syllable, then we add er to form the comparative. If it has two or more, we add more. But that's not really a general rule because there are many exceptions, right? And many cases where you double the consonant, etc. I actually am going to leave the link to the video that I did on comparative and superlative adjectives, right? And that video will help you to form these adjectives. But this is just brief information. We are not going to study this in detail, okay? Right. So Spanish is less difficult than French. That would be to the lower degree, a comparison of a lower degree, right? So we use less because difficult will be 3 syllables, difficult, right? John is taller than Jack. Once again, tall contains 1 syllable, so we add er. But once again, we're not focusing on the formation. So you'll have to watch that video if you really want to understand the rules behind the formation, okay? Superlative adjectives indicate that a noun or pronoun has the highest or least amount of equality. So this is where in a group. So this is where we are going to be, this is where we say that a noun or pronoun is at the upper or lower limit of equality, okay? For example, most beautiful, best, least special, most handsome, safest. And to form these, we add est if it is 1 syllable. And if it's 2 or more, then we use most, right? But once again, we're not focusing on that. Kayla is the most beautiful girl in the world. I would like to meet Kayla. That is the least special. And also, you don't have to mention the group if it is already understood by context. So you will see that this is a phrase, but this is how the superlative will be formed, right? So be sure to check out that video. So comparative and superlative adjectives. 6. Interrogative adjectives. These are used to ask questions by modifying a noun. They include what, which, and whose. Which country is the coldest? What time is it? Whose car is this? As you would see, these are used before nouns, right? Now, we use which when there are options. We use what when we do not know what the options are. And we use whose to indicate possession, okay? Now, these can also function as interrogative pronouns. Once again, pronouns can be confusing. Adjectives and pronouns can be a little confusing at times. So the difference, once again, is that these question words, when they're functioning as interrogative pronouns, can stand on their own, okay? So an example, which is the coldest? We eliminate the noun. Once we eliminate the noun, we have an interrogative pronoun. Which is the coldest? What is it? What in that case would be an interrogative pronoun. And whose is this? All we need to do is to eliminate the noun to form the interrogative pronoun. That's the only difference. And as you would see from the previous examples of the demonstratives and what was the other example? And the possessives, it just comes down to whether or not that word is used before a noun or whether it is used on its own. And that will make the difference between the two. That will mark the difference between the two. Okay? So, these are some more adjectives, and we continue. So we move on to the final two types of adjectives. We have predicate adjectives. These are adjectives that follow linking verbs and they describe the subject and not the verb. So with linking verbs, we must use adjectives. However, with action verbs, we use adverbs. And I'm actually going to leave the link to the video that I did on action versus linking verbs. So linking verbs are verbs that describe the subject. They do not describe action. This is why we use adjectives with them. So any adjective that follows a linking verb is going to be called a predicate adjective. Okay? For example, our teacher is beautiful. The verb to be is not an action verb. It is a linking verb. It describes the state of the subject. Okay? So in this case, it is talking about the subject's appearance. Beautiful. We can't say our teacher is beautifully. We can't say that. That would not be grammatically correct. The verb to be is an example of a linking verb. Similarly, the watch looks cheap. Looks is good. The verb to look is a linking verb. Even though it can also be an action verb, depending on the context. In this context, the verb to look is going to be a linking verb because what it does is that it describes the appearance of the watch, right? Now, if we wanted to use look as an action verb, we would say, I looked carefully. I looked carefully. So you see, we have to use an adverb there because looked is an action in that context. But if we're using look as a linking verb, then we're going to use an adjective. But once again, please check out that video because that explains the differences between action and linking verbs, right? So beautiful and cheap. These will be two examples of predicate adjectives only because they follow linking verbs. Pay attention now. The final type of adjective is called a descriptive adjective or an adjective of quality. These describe the quality of a noun. They occur before the noun. Notice I used the same adjective here. So beautiful is reused. The beautiful teacher. In this case, beautiful is a descriptive adjective or an adjective of quality. So what is the difference? I'm going to get to that. A cheap watch, same thing. Cheap is used here and cheap is used here. The difference is that cheap precedes the noun. So that's the difference. Position. Many adjectives in English that are descriptive can also be predicate once they follow linking verbs. That's the only difference between them, right? The reason that this is a predicate adjective here is that it follows the linking verb, and the reason that it's a descriptive adjective here is that it precedes the noun. So these can occur in either position. So the difference between a predicate adjective and a descriptive adjective is going to come down to position. If it occurs after a linking verb, it will be a predicate adjective. If it occurs before the noun, it will be a descriptive adjective. Now the next question is, are there any rules as it relates to any adjectives that can only function as one? Yes. Let's look at the examples of the words or the adjectives afraid and asleep. Those both describe states. You can only use those as predicate adjectives, asleep and afraid. Therefore, I can say I am afraid, I am asleep. As you see, both of them would follow the linking verb to be. But I can't say the afraid teacher or the asleep teacher. Afraid describes the state. So that has to be followed, or that has to follow a linking verb. So those are examples of adjectives that can only be used as predicate adjectives. They cannot be used as descriptive, because if they are used as descriptive adjectives, that means that they precede the noun. And you can't say the afraid teacher or the asleep teacher. No. So those will follow linking verbs, and thus they can only be predicate adjectives. Okay? Proper adjectives. Now these two adjectives are basically subcategories of descriptive adjectives. So proper adjectives, these are derived from proper nouns. And as you know, a proper noun refers to the name of a specific person, place, etc., right? The American flag is colorful. And of course I use the American spelling. I like Shakespearean novels. And just like proper nouns, proper adjectives need to begin with capital letters. You see, American spelled with a capital A, Shakespearean spelled with a capital S. So the same rules would apply when it comes to capitalization, okay? And compound adjectives. These consist of two or more descriptive adjectives. They are usually separated by a hyphen. We live in an English-speaking country. So you see, those are two adjectives that are combined with a hyphen, or combined by a hyphen, right? My car has a long-lasting battery. My car has a long-lasting battery. Long-lasting, I actually just realized that I repeated the sentence, but anywho, long-lasting would be our compound adjective because it consists of two adjectives, okay? Now you would see that the second one is in the gerund, in the continuous form, but we could also use the participle, right? The past participle, for example, well-behaved or well-dressed, right? So those would be two examples of additional examples of compound adjectives. And like I said, compound adjectives would be a type of descriptive adjective. These would be a subcategory, okay? All right, so this brings us to the end of our lesson on adjectives. I hope that you understand all the different types of adjectives. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.